It's a big,
No.
I think.
No, it's not
here,
video.
Like homes for us to go to all the lines.
There we go.
But it's okay. Look how hard I get up. What if she's happy, I'm moderately. Bounce house, I know, well, yeah. Right.
My husband sometimes. Sometimes, you know, this. My son's baby.
House in the town.
No, it's in front of. It's for under.
Okay, funny.
Yeah, but the other side, really, the other side.
Oh.
It's the-
It's.
it's
next
the
to it.
block,
No, it's next to
115.
It's next.
All right, we'll get to, okay.
It is.
You're just gonna have to talk a little louder.
Morning, hi, welcome to the conservation.
I just tested, I'm sorry, you need to talk a little bit louder to be heard.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
I know, quit yelling.
How's everyone? You can't hear me when I yell at you when I drive by you walk.
Test speaker.
This is.
That's Mike. There it is.
But you didn't hear it
Came out
there,
loud
did you?
and clear.
Yeah, I heard it up
Yeah.
there.
Then I said the S word.
Microphone's working, but it's. Speaker, you need the speaker, you need a different
Is it the,
speaker.
Speaker. Camera or something?
Oh, I did it wrong.
Is the microphone? Testing.
Now it's coming out of there.
I'm just moving it closer. And I got the table out of the way.
Okay, sorry for that, we got moved down here and I haven't done this meeting room in over a year, so I'm just out of practice with this meeting room.
Oh, we're not complaining. It's nice move. All right, so call the meeting to order. Wow. Nice.
Big roll.
We'll take a roll call. And since this is a virtual meeting, we have the protocol for anybody that might, and everything's being recorded, voice and video, so let's be mindful of speaking in turn and if need be, raising hands for points, and speak clearly and slowly so that the recording can be legible. And we will now take roll call.
Chairman Di Lorenzo,
Present.
Tom Heisler,
Present.
Guy Hoffman,
Present.
Carl Lewis,
Present.
Karen Pagliaro,
Present.
Mary Catherine LaRose,
Present.
Robert Ramsey,
Present.
and just for everyone's knowledge, effective yesterday, Peter Zaragoza has resigned as alternate. So there are now two alternate vacancies.
Okay, thank you. Well, along that subject, if anybody knows somebody interested or if they're not.
May I ask a question? What party or non-affiliated party, what are they looking for, do you know?
No more than 4 of whom should be in the same party.
There's one of each.
So I believe you're a Republican or unaffiliated.
Okay. And then the other opening is for a Democrat, affiliated, isn't it? Are there two now? There's two,
Or I'm seeing
Well,
4
alternates
Democrats
are
listed.
available, right?
2 alternates are available.
One you.
One R, I thought one was a D, one was an R, and either one could be a U.
I'm just reading straight off of this. It says 4, no more than 4 from the same
No,
party.
this one's
Kate
not
should be
available.
checked with as far as whether an alternate would be of one of the parties.
I'm just thinking that Peter,
She would have to tell us that.
Peter was
I don't know.
unaffiliated. Oh, he was. Very good.
So in R, where you,
Well, that means for regular. members. We think that we could take. Either. or all.
I don't know.
that would be
That's a-
Kate.
that's a
Yeah,
Kate
right.
question. That's a
Well, if
town
it's always not
question.
here, then it-
Right, because 4 is for a quorum. 7. So. And then, you know.
I still think there's 2 openings, and if there's 2
Two
openings,
openings, it should be-
I thought one was. It could be one is R and unaffiliated, but I really think the other one. I doubt that there's 2 R unaffiliated.
and we'll confirm that.
Anyway, there's 2 openings.
Yep, 2 openings, so same thing goes. Great, okay, last month's minutes. Hopefully everybody got that. Sprinkle. Thank you, Marlon.
No, this is,
Oh, that's
that's the agenda, I didn't print them.
Or Maureen said when.
Moves out in 10 minutes.
Second,
All in favor of, or any discussion? Karen, you? Oh, okay, I thought you.
I'm sorry.
No, that's right.
Seconded, I'm sorry.
I didn't.
All in favor accepting the minutes as written?
Okay.
So. Maureen, you have a signage replacement update?
I do, so we've ordered, well, we started fabricating or did fabricate the signs for, the open space. I'm sorry. Let me find it, bring it up on the screen. Give me 1 second to share my screen. We did make a modification as we were looking at them to put the notice at the top of the general conservation area sign. So can everybody see that? There we go, that's better. So we put notice conservation area, they may be, the signs may be placed within the conservation area, maybe on the edge of the conservation area. You know, we discussed boundary of, we discussed entering, and we decided because we wanted to be able to place them appropriately, that just having edging signs might not be the best, so. Vital Signs came up with putting notice, that's the same wording we talked about before with the QR code at the bottom, and then we added the QR code at the bottom of the sign that talks about how you can use the space.
Does the QR code take you to that Berlin, Connecticut.gov site?
Yes, and to the, I think to the trail page, I'm not
Oh.
positive it's to the trail page, but I think it's to the GIS map trail
So right
page.
to the trail page.
Yeah,
Are they?
I haven't tested the QR code. Jim was working on working with our New England Geo to develop the QR code to get us to the right place. So the people that know the tech did the tech.
And is it gonna be embedded in the sign or is it a sticker?
For these signs, I believe they're on the signs, and we added that wording at the bottom about maintaining a number of places. So the notice of conservation area sign can go where there is access or where there's not access. Because if the QR code, if you use that, you find out whether you're on an appropriate trail, and if you have this sign is up, it's because it's at a trail. So I'm hoping you can use. So the planning and the zoning regulations and the subdivision regulations call for certain conservation area signs to be posted when we get new conservation areas related to subdivisions or open space dedications. I'm hoping that we can start using a sign, either this sign or a similar one for those areas, but I have to work out the regulations at the same time to make them consistent with the specific.
So I thought we were always talking about when you were just referring to an open space subdivision next to an easement or something like that. That would be more of a, unless it was an actual path to the trail, that we were using smaller signs. We had smaller ones that
We don't have those. So we have to have new signs, but the zoning regulations call for the word
And
and the subdivision regulations, and they are smaller.
and the developer will.
And the developer is
for
responsible for them regardless, they won't be using our signs, or the signs the conservation commission purchase to do that, but we do
But
have
they
some
have
of
to-
those
They
that
have to
need to
use
be.
the template that we provide. Yes.
I need to get the regulations
When you do
updated so that we can be consistent
Good.
throughout,
Alright.
that was my goal, and I understood it to be your
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
to be consistent, to be, and I kind of like the idea of notice on there, which says, stop encroaching.
Yeah.
We've had quite a bit of encroachment, at least, investigations lately, we have found that some of them are not encroachments, but we've been doing some wrong, or for instance, one took down some dead trees, he had taken pictures of the dead trees before he took them down, luckily. So, yep, they were dead trees, and our tree warden probably would have told them it was okay, but he asked for forgiveness and permission. Want to encourage people to ask for permission first. So,
Okay.
that's what, hopefully, you're developing these signs will do.
QR code.
And
If
the
it ever needs to be changed, then it's just a sticker.
And he has fabricated stickers as well for the old signs. They just have to be.
Right, because that'll fade.
Some of them are not in great placement as far as getting the sticker over the sign, so we would send pictures so that you can figure out how to size those. For the existing size to put the stickers correctly on them, because. It's gonna cover words, we've
Yeah.
had some trouble.
Hey, Maureen, when, I'm going back and forth with Jim Mahoney on this and should we make a note that, once settled and the QR code ready to go, I think it'd be a good press release or something to send to the citizen and the current with the PDF, or photo, and it's a good thing. Hey, look out for coming to a trail near you, QR code. So is that a lot of people are into that, so that'll help. Maybe that'll help encourage people to get out to.
Harold too, I think, right?
Harold,
Still
yes.
people there.
Yeah, that's right. So I think that would be great. Well,
It's wetlands?
No, wetlands is upstairs in the engineering offices.
Said on the front that was relocated to,
No, Conservation Commission was relocated.
okay, okay.
We're a lot cooler though.
well,
Yeah.
This is, much this is an upgrade, I wanna get down here.
go into the center doors and.
Yeah, you have to go to the center door.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions on the signs? I
And
think
he's
they're-
listed on this agenda too, so probably more. This is not this agenda.
Oh, is he supposed to?
He's one of these applications.
Oh,
No, you don't usually have the applicant at your meetings.
No, usually not. Great job on the signs.
Yeah, I think the signs look great.
Thank you.
The Jim and Vital Signs. It's good both of the credit.
Well, you.
I like to spread the wealth. I like
The
that
inside
as much.
coordinator, right? You go back and forth. Thank you.
Thank
Scientific study requests.
So I got two different requests. This one reads, I'm a P, so, okay, so we have open spaces that have unique flora and fauna and whatever, and while I understand people have taken samples in the past or what have you, I did not know the process and thought that perhaps the commission could enlighten me as to making sure we're following some approvals that are not, that they might or might not need, and let me know. If you don't mind, this is only a paragraph and I'll read his, their email, Etienne LaCroix Charagnes. So I don't know.
Wait, so he's a PhD.
So I am a PhD student at the University of Montreal in Canada. I am currently conducting a taxonomic study on a group of plants, carex, occurring in floodplain habitats and wet depressions. As part of the study, I would like to request permission to access Timberland Park to collect a few carrots and associated plant species from wet depressions with a focus on Clarix lupiformis and putative hybrids involving that species. These species will be included in a populational level DNA analysis and will be deposited in institutional herbarium. Seeds may be collected for ex situ cultivation. No threatened or endangered species will be vouchered, and soil disturbances will be kept at a minimum. Less than 30 plants will be conducted from the park. If you are able to deliver a written authorization, you can forward it to this email address. Otherwise, please refer me to competent authorities. If needed, I can provide more detail on species samples for the research problem. Have a nice summer.
Everybody's looking at you, guy. Because nobody else is short for these.
Right.
So
Is there anything against leave no trace principles? This person is gonna take less than 30 or something like that, I mean, nothing's protected
we know what the,
for scientific purposes, for the greater good, that's what I'm.
Well, that's the thing, I mean,
you know, what plants he's referring to.
I'm not sure which one, no, not specific.
Stuff that.
Yeah, we have the,
But we could figure that out.
yeah.
So if you.
But he
think-
said no threatened or endangered species. So,
There's sedges,
Grass, like a
grass,
I didn't know.
but if they're in a wetland. The grass, they're not that stuff that's up on the trap rock bridges, which I would be
Right, no, no, so
concerned
they're gonna,
about.
they should be at the water zone. Sections,
30 plants.
so it could be in some water.
And
Doesn't say that he's working with a state project.
well, University of Montreal, PhD.
Right, so.
That's pretty cool that he.
So I would think like, what would you
I-
balance of, is this gonna be good for the state of knowledge?
I think one thing is, I'm not positive, I know in my line of work at DEP. That you needed to collect it from the state. So, you know, like, if you were just interested in things that lived in the stream, you couldn't just go and start taking a net
Yeah.
and taking what you wanted, whether it was fish or invertebrates or something like that.
All plants.
I would think plants fall into the same kind of thing. So we should at least have something on there that says, you know, that you need to get any appropriate.
Right, contingent.
Yeah. And
Usually
with that, you.
Any state or other environmental
Yeah.
authorization. may be required.
Maureen, is this, excuse me. We did something similar with Heidi Brian, we used to do a plant.
That's,
What
I
is it?
was looking for that and I couldn't find it. I like searched my emails and was trying to find it and I was having trouble locating it. So, because I thought that would be the second.
Second one.
Yeah,
So
but it's,
is this qualify as use of town lands?
I guess we'd have to make that determination.
So if we approve it, is that?
I would look
council?
to the town manager about whether or not that,
Okay,
the town clerk and town manager about whether it also.
Oh,
The
so-
next level, and certainly you don't, I
asked the.
would encourage, if you have hesitation or want some additional questions answered, that, you know, it could be put off. He didn't reply to me, at one point, I think I replied to him earlier as well as today, to let him know that we'd be bringing up the subject tonight, but but we may have further, but if you want to say contingent on any other town approvals necessary, that's fine too. That you you know, not objecting or what have you.
So
It
Carrick's,
can be either way.
excuse me, Carrick's, who will form this is false hop sedge, a perennial sedge of sporadic distribution. Found in floodplain forests and ephemeral woodland ponds in Central and Eastern North America. So it doesn't seem like this is something that, like, if this guy takes 25 out of here, it's gonna kill the whole. You know, so I think our job would be to, obviously, to protect our open space and. But I would have no problem so long as. You know, if this guy's really a PhD student at the University of Montreal and he's really legitimate research, he's gonna take 25 to 30 plants out of Timberland Park. He's saying less than 30 plants, and he sent this to 200 people.
Right.
Jurisdiction, so, you know, I get what you're saying, and I totally agree, he's gotta have all of his ducks in a row, but I don't really have it.
Yeah.
These are very common.
Yeah,
Yeah, Kevin.
I was gonna say, since you have the connection with DP and he's asking for if needed.
Yeah.
Is there someone you could like help direct him to? So that when we give our like provisional approval, subject to, we would be able to say who he needs to get the official approval.
Who can answer that?
yeah.
Who the directive to it?
Yeah, I didn't know
I
if
don't
I had
have
the
a name right
connections
now,
to,
'cause I
but
don't know.
yeah.
Reorganization, I do have. Somebody that used to work for me that does plant stuff, he's done sampling. Berlin, actually, Short Mountain, he usually looks for. Presence of. Rare. Does a lot of that, I work, it's not a DEP. But they contract out to. Experts in plants. I could reach out to Bill and see what he needs.
Just to help this guy out.
And then Bill is working with
Right.
the state now.
That would be-
So I say safe to say, I was gonna say, as. We conditionally approve. Pending, you know, that he gets the approvals from the permanent state agencies. And if Guy gets the contact, he can forward that to me, yeah, as well. Yeah, as well. Yeah.
I know it might be so nuts, however, I have two questions. One is, how did he come up with Timberland Park?
You know, that,
That's one question. The other question is, what I find interesting is, and again, I don't go to this university, but usually masters and beyond, they have like, when Ethan was in his master's program, this dental, he had, you know, an email through UConn. So it's like, how come I'm seeing that?
Yeah.
I don't know, though, it's just a question.
yeah, I mean, the question, when I. Remember thinking like, didn't really describe the scope of the project either, you know, of. You know, like you said, in a sense, like. Why Timberland, where does that fit in? Trying to sample X number. Out of different states in the Northeast, you know.
I suspect he's been there before.
You know, it's gotta be local.
Well, I have his LinkedIn profile right here.
Oh,
It should just be legitimate.
Okay, so actually, I was just doing that.
Just does. I don't speak French, but it seems like he has some legitimate experience with government agency, probably so. I mean, and even if he doesn't, I don't know that would locks us in.
So everything is done.
No, I didn't say that. I'm just saying,
That was-
I think all these
I
questions
don't-
are legit, you know, it's just,
It's got
like, I think he probably poured over, natural inventories, and this is a place I would,
That's
Yeah.
you know, like,
Yeah.
this is a low
you have a
area.
specific plant that he studied, so he
Right.
probably have located where it's found,
Correct.
you know, all around.
It's not like we don't have low lying, you know.
In a
floodplains.
public place, on
Yeah.
public lands.
So
Good.
I would also see like where it's going. I'd almost like to see where he's gonna collect them. Now, am I wrong, but isn't the reservoir right next to Timberland not ours?
Yeah, but if he's in Timberland Park,
Right, but I mean, somebody.
you mean, you're talking, I see, you're talking about like, what they call that, Arts Pond, right there, right? Yeah, so he didn't probably want him to stay in.
That's right.
That's a good point, because,
Just.
you know, not that that's not posted, so you have to
Right.
stay within.
Right, but
Right.
it's not. it's
Upper and
not
lower
ours.
Harts Ponds are not ours, they're restricted, New Britain water,
Water supply, right?
for good reason, too.
The more you do that.
Yeah, but
The other
we're not
thing
giving him
Isn't it
permission to go anywhere. We're just saying that in
Timberland
plans that
Park,
we
yeah,
see,
Yeah,
you can do it.
Yeah.
If he veers out, and gets caught, he's, you know, we didn't,
We didn't,
we tell him he could go there.
Yeah,
no,
Yeah.
when you met, someone mentioned Heidi, and when I got Heidi's information that she sent, my understanding was she
I
she
don't
wasn't
see that
collecting
there.
samples, she was observing.
Yeah.
So I think the difference is you can go out and observe
That's
what
gonna be
plants are there and what, but it, in this case, you take the sample, so it's a different.
Yeah, but
different-
I
know,
I
how we have
new friends and it's like,
what process beyond us.
Sea urchins, really?
For private
There's
property.
another one about properties.
I can't remember.
We'll
We'll figure it out. but
Yeah.
comment
That was
is-
back in 2000.
and I mean,
That was his work.
hopefully it's for,
I was
a,
working for-
Yeah.
you know, a
Yes, these
bigger
guys are
purpose here.
Yeah,
I know that we said no to the guy that wanted to collect, antlers.
Oh, yeah, running. From running here. All right, Maureen, you can set the next one.
All right,
You got
so-
another one?
I will,
Oh, wait.
To do a motion.
Do we need a motion for that, Maureen, or?
I think that would be best, so that then I can condition it on the finding out what other approvals are necessary, and we can.
Okay.
And then if, for instance, say, the town council has to authorize it, we can skip coming back for again, if you've already made the motion.
That's-
I think Karen should do it, because she has been to French and say his name.
Oh, God, you could be.
yeah. I don't
Um,
speak French in my office, so used to.
well, I guess make a motion to,
It should be.
conditionally approve the request for sampling the plants in Timberland Park. That's mentioned by the person,
Requester.
yeah. I request.
Yeah.
But based, but needing to find out if there's any other town approval and or state approval for him to collect. What's that? So,
Second, yeah.
I have just a, so he says in his request that he'd appreciate it, we sent that along, can we put something there where actually communicate with this guy if we approve it?
So.
Okay,
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
We'll tell him what happened.
okay, we will do that, okay, cool, great, thanks.
Should we put it in writing in the motion that we suggest that he contact the deed? So just kind of puts it off our plate in case something goes wrong.
I think I said.
yeah, I can find out if
Town or state.
yeah.
Okay,
requirements.
So. You want me to read what, the way I. Condition, any state or other environmental permits or authorizations are the responsibility of the collector.
Yeah.
The authorization from. For town use. If required. For town, from town council and within the limits of the park,
we,
as under the
That's
conservation.
26.
That sounds good.
Mhm, can I say that?
We're using colors.
There's a whole bunch of stuff in there, I was gonna fix it.
So Mary Catherine, you second?
I did send.
Did, okay, so all in favor of that wonderfully
No, Mary,
worded
no.
motion by
Aye.
So moved. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Maureen, for helping us move that along. Is there another one, Maureen?
Hold on one second, let me figure out where this meeting minutes to the questions. Stop sharing. Stop sharing. Okay. Then the next one, I thought there were, and that's the one I was searching for, because I thought that we had gotten something else, but what we actually had gotten was a request from somebody who's looking to run an event in, from Berlin Land Trust, and they don't have any details yet, so we've been back and forth. It's a 2024 item, so
Okay.
that actually I got it confused with what I thought was
Okay.
another request
Did they
for
give you-
collection.
Did they give you any indication from BLT what they were talking about?
Yes,
That was
it's hackathon fundraiser
Okay.
for 2024 from the Berlin Land Trust. And their idea is to host at Hatchery Brook Conservation Area in Bicentennial Park. And just structured similarly to a walkathon. They just are looking for guidance as to what the steps would be should they pursue it. So they haven't. Doesn't seem as though they.
Yeah, it
What
was
they
at the
want.
talking place. So, Yeah.
Thank you.
So then at this point, it would be an added discussion to discuss the trails, the relocation. I had thought that was on the last agenda,
Okay,
and I
would you like me to
realized
make
it
a
was this
motion?
one.
Yeah, that's cool. I'll make a motion to include in the use of town lands section of the agenda, relocation of the Metacomet Trail / New England National Scenic Trail in the town of Berlin. Gonna be a quick one.
Rob, seconded. Thank you. All in favor of adding that item to the agenda?
Aye.
So, thank you.
So at no cost to the town, I have printed out 4, so we got to share. Small maps. I'm sorry, I don't know, do you have this one? I think I did forward it to you, right?
Summit.
Sure, it's
It's
this package, but there's a map. I had it earlier today. Let me make sure I brought it downstairs.
Or you can just call up the Summit with GIS.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm gonna start.
Yeah.
so.
There it is. It's the one right in front of my face.
Okay, yeah, I got you. And that's gonna be actually a bigger map, so it's probably better, right? So what we have in front of us is a map of, for those present. This is, the blue line is the existing Metacomet Trail, New England National Scenic Trail, which runs through Berlin, right? And, this is to the east of Chamberlain Highway, to the south of Orchard Road. And, okay, great. So can I stand up here and talk about this really quick? Maureen, or is that gonna
Would it be
violate it?
easier if you called it the GIS of Summit Wood and you?
No, I just think this is gonna be a quick one.
Okay.
If you don't mind, sir.
Yeah, I remember.
All right, so this is Chamberlain Highway. This is Apple Lane, right? Orchard Road is to the north. The Cat Hole Pass is to the south, right? So this is where our easement, what we would call Pierre Beneroup's hoop houses are, right? Now, you can see this is a historical map, not an up-to-date. So the Metacomet Trail prior to the development of Summit Wood used to run right through here. When Summit Wood went through, they moved the trail here and it runs through front yards of folks right here. It's never been a perfect setup and aesthetically not very pleasing. I don't know what the arrangement has been for that trail to go through there. I don't know if there was an easement that went through or that it's just people have let the trail historically go through, but it runs through people's front yards. The town got what, 400 acres or something from the gas turbine transactions back probably 10 years ago. So we've had that back here, right? So CFPA has been interested, that is the Connecticut Forest and Park Association, has been interested in rerouting the trail for some time. And finally, we got out there. I walked this with the, whatever his title is, but he's very good. He's the guy that coordinated the work that was done at Timberland Park last year, the combination bog bridging and regular bridging, really wonderful work. So anyway, to make a long story short, this is just for reference, our trail that comes from the easement from those hoop houses, right? This is the existing blue trail. This is the blue trail that's going to be bypassed. And this is the bushwhack that we did of the trail. This is the power lines. There's existing parking here. One thing I want to talk about really quick is that this is where our sign for Blue Hills Conservation Area is. Ironically, there's a sign right here that says no parking. And there's a sign that says, hey, welcome to Blue Hills Conservation Area. So we got to talk about that. But to make a long story.
That's where the blocks are.
Yeah. So two things I want to discuss. One, I want to just kind of recommend that this 0.7 mile bypass, which is aesthetically superior in every way to the current trail, be approved on town land. It doesn't go over any of the existing Jeep tracks, ATV tracks. So I want to, that's my purpose here, is to suggest that we approve that, or that we as a commission approve it, because it's better in every way. And then I just want to really briefly talk about how much the Blue Hills Conservation Area has been degraded by ATV use, and how we need to, as a commission, either address it or not. But it's being ripped up by people in and out of this town. I know, because I'm related to one of them, who goes there with ATVs, motorbikes. It's a risk to the town, and it's a risk to the people who go there. But so the first thing is, can we address that? I would make a motion to support CFPA in their, well, first of all, I'll take any questions. I think it's a no-brainer. It just pulls it off of people's front yards and puts it onto town land.
Do you want to see the GIS?
Didn't we,
You want me to bring it up? Okay.
Yeah, we've seen,
we thought of it as I thought approved as a concept.
yeah,
To change it.
So I
And I
think
thought
we
we-
weren't at the meeting.
Probably not.
but this is the final,
But right.
This is
a good
pretty much.
idea.
And it doesn't, it's, you know, this guy knows what he's talking about. It's not gonna create erosion, you know what I mean? This guy has built trails before, including helped us work on trails, and CFPA has done a really good job, so. Any other? Yeah, so I think it's a no-brainer. It helps us access, you know, one of the, I think, the goals of the plan of conservation development is to actually have people use our lands, right? Our open spaces, and this, you know, that's not, it's not a great open space, it's a weird open space out there. But this will get the trail out of people's front yards, off of the road, and so.
Who does it go before next after? Does town council after?
I believe it is a, no,
I don't think so. I think because that's, I'll double check, but I think that's you guys handle the relocation trails.
yeah,
so I'll make a motion that we,
Of course, double check.
I'll make a motion that we support the relocation of the Metacomet / New England. This is a big deal, man. It's the New England National Scenic Trail, and it's.
concept.
Aye.
Aye. So moved.
And the other thing I just want to talk about is we have to discuss at some point, I have to,
I got it.
you know, like that parcel is getting trashed by people who are using ATVs. Nobody cares. It's well accepted that if you have an ATV, I saw people coming from out of town up in there. You know, if we want to abandon it to that use, or we want to say, hey, listen, we're just gonna wink and nudge at that. Because it goes all the way down to Meriden. Maybe that's outside of the scope of what we put, so I'm gonna withdraw.
Well, hold on, before you even get to that subject, I want to thank you for your efforts there and with the CFPA town's liaison there. It's good stuff, Carl, thank you.
Will those homeowners be informed that it's no longer gonna?
Good question. I bet they'll figure it out when. Yeah, that's good. That's a really good.
Yeah, I
do
think
think after it happens,
I think
maybe
at the time that that happens, that's another good thing to have out. For a press release.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Because they
QR
should know
code.
that they no longer have to let people walk through their property.
right.
I was guessing people coming out there, they walk down the road, they don't know.
I'm not sure about that.
I have
Like through hikers are like really complete kind of people. I'm sure that they are.
I bet there's 200 people. As I've said before, that section between Chamberlain Highway and Capitol Pass, that comes out of Orchard in Kensington.
Yeah.
That is the least walked section of the National Scenic Trail, I bet. I'll bet $1 million, nobody walks it. Except for through hikers, because there's no real, it's between that long walk, I'm feeling any like a crazy, but it's a road walk all the way out to Stantec Road at Lamentation Mountain. And really, I mean, that's not a spectacular area. So if you're doing, the only reason to walk that is because you love the town like we do, or that you're doing a through hike. It's really kind of like a landlocked kind of section.
So the encroachment or illegal use of motorized vehicles on there has been a problem, I guess, since before the town acquired it.
Yeah.
So I would probably the first step would be Maureen, you send a message to the police chief that you know, there's some concern about that and brought to attention. And at the same time, where are we with the patrols on the police ATVs? And as long as we're on it, in years past, we actually, for a while there, when Australia was doing it, they actually would write a report on what they found on the patrols and share it with us.
Yeah,
Sorry,
we have no idea. We haven't heard in years whether they even use it.
I'm not sure they.
Well, we supported, like, we're not just here as carpetbaggers. We
No.
supported their acquisition, their grant application. I mean, this is some time ago, maybe 10 or 15 years
Oh,
ago.
yeah,
But I believe that they have a new generation of those ATVs.
yeah, I think they upgraded.
But I mean, let's face it, let's just call it what it is. You know, we've got, I'm sure that patrolling this town is a big enough job for, they're not gonna be authorizing a whole lot of overtime to go and patrol south of Orchard Road on land that's been used and abused by ATVs. I'm just pointing out that they're killing it, man. It's eroded and it's degrading the experience. If you wanted to go out there, walk, for example, that old Metacomet Trail, Maureen, that was on that old, it's a puddle, man. The old one on that the map that right here,
Yeah.
that's just an old rutted track right now. You can't walk it because it's just so degraded.
Are they coming from Meriden that side or are they?
Where are they
getting access?
parking to get to their ATVs in there? Where do they park their other?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's
There's a group of them that drive down Sunday morning
wow.
they park.
from near my neighborhood. and
Yeah,
my
there's
place.
other places. I'm not gonna put it on the record, but let's face it, I mean, if nobody's noticed. You can drive ATVs without being stopped by the police from New Haven to Hartford and back on the
On the
Berlin
road?
Turnpike. Yes,
I've seen them on the road.
of course. So it's not like this is something that's gonna stop it. I'm just pointing out that they're trashing our open space and it kind of
This is you off.
pisses me off, right? I was gonna say that for the record, but
And I,
Noted that
thank
you can also see where they've accessed through certain private properties, like from the Chamberlain Highway over, you can see where there's openings.
Yeah, they moved the
that-
blocks. They
and
come in
they
from
get
Victoria, what's called
used.
Victoria Way there.
I will say that Victoria Way now has a locked gate and cinder blocks there that they didn't have before, which has helped some of the enforcement things that are other activities that we are monitoring
Right.
on that property of uses that aren't permitted in the zone,
And having, been-
zoning violations.
and
but-
having been here for a long time, those blocks move, the chains get cut. I mean, I'm not suggesting that we're gonna solve the problem. I'm just suggesting we have 400 acres here. And if we want to turn it into an ATV park, maybe we should just charge rent.
Until somebody gets hurt and sues the
Right.
town,
Right,
then they'll
right.
figure it out.
So I have a question, but it involves Carl when he's ready. So the ATVs that are currently using that property, what's gonna happen when when the
Trail gets moved.
the CFPA moves that trail? Is that going to ruin that trail? Is it gonna be in the area where the ATVs are?
Very good question. Very good question, Mary Catherine. The fact is that they designed this trail to be single track and not really, it's not gonna be desirable
Okay,
for ATVs.
So
It
these
goes,
could-
it goes along no current ATV trails. In fact, he's tried to minimize its contact. If you can't, you have to cross ATV trails. Or what used to be trails, used to be regular trails. So no, it's not gonna,
okay.
it's,
Well, that's encouraging,
yes,
Yeah.
no, there's plenty of. ATV
because you
trails.
wouldn't want them to do all that work to relocate that
Right.
portion of the trail and then
Right.
have ATVs back and forth and all over.
Right, so there's two really big ATV trails that go this way. I just choked on my, so there's two trails that go here, including the old Let It Comet. That is like totally an ATV trail right now. This is power lines, right? So there's obviously ATV trails along here. But the way he's laid it out, it's not gonna be something that's like desirable. Like there's a lot of places that you can go. Yeah, so,
Do they do it all the time, or is it just on?
no, all the time. Weekends obviously get more use.
I had one other question. Are there any property owners, private property owners that are allowing the ATVs on their property and then letting them go wherever? So, and is there any way to discourage those property owners, say, listen, you're allowing this, but you could be liable if somebody gets hurt or whatever?
Well, there's certainly contiguous property owners, but that side of town just doesn't have a lot. I mean, I don't believe that there's any property owners there who are like living there. What do they call it? Like
On site.
on site. It's just,
There's not an awful lot. It's not like.
Yeah.
Most of that property doesn't have like a neighborhood.
Okay.
right. It's all planned. Remember, we were looking at a plan there for some like a military.
Oh, yeah.
museum
Oh,
park,
geez, yeah.
stuff like that. I don't know what the status of that ever became, but that's like the private property on that zoned. Planned industrial, it's the land time forgot. I get it, but, and by the way, you can also access the whole series of trails from South Mountain Road, which is the gated road right after Capitol Pass near the Marine Shop.
Yeah.
In Meriden, so I mean, it's just a free for all that.
Oh, I know what.
Sure.
So anyway, I
They
spent,
put something in there.
yes, it's something.
So some kind of development.
I wonder if that will.
I hesitate to talk about it. I'm like,
But I'm just wondering if that might,
Our understanding is that there will be a publication facility.
In Marion, you're saying?
I
but I think a little farther south,
I
just
don't know if it's
it
the
might-
properties you're talking
Might
about.
mean that there'd be a little less access.
yeah, more security there, that's possible. It's wide open, it's wide open. So I just put it on the radar, because I was out there and it's never been as trashed as I've seen it.
Those big, house things, though, back at approved?
Hydroponics did get approved, and I believe they're pursuing their design, et cetera. They have not applied for permits yet, but we understand they'll be coming forward. I think they closed on the property. As far as the use further down, that's the one, the one where Victoria Drive is that the military proposal was. And that has not had any further proposals. And just to clarify, it's the planned office development zone is the east side of the southern end of the Chamberlain Highway. So this area.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dan, Carl.
Oh, and I did want to just say one other thing, and that I will, send something to the chief and ask him some, to work with us. They have been very short, officer staffed, both losing several officers for the last year or two, not being able to fill positions, working hard, recruiting like crazy, so hopefully we'll
Nothing.
back up to par with law enforcement, but that's a national issue, not just a Berlin issue.
Yeah,
So
nothing
I
that
wanted to make sure that
yeah, nothing that I said means that it was meant to be a criticism of the police department. I'm just saying that area is getting beaten by ATVs. So,
I just wanted to make sure
Yep.
everybody.
Yep.
Knew I was quite confident or aware of the experience right now. I'm gonna stop sharing and go back to the room. There we go.
Not really, the form that for the volunteers that I had last time. I would say, I don't know if people have feedback at this point, or if we wanna, like, keep this going on like send comments or suggestions or something, and then. I mean, it's still something that we don't know if we're gonna do yet. I know that Jim seemed to be a proponent of it, and I thought that it would be good to kind of get us thinking about, like, if that's where we might be headed, how do we want to structure it? So, I mean, I'm fine letting things continue on, and if people want to comment on it, or if people want to something struck you that, like, oh, we should have this on it.
That was pretty thorough. I mean, I looked it over. My apologies. I didn't know if we were supposed to respond or not, which I did, but I guess my question was, I think it said like at least once a year. It just doesn't seem very productive to have somebody only, review a trail for once a year. But again, I don't know what kind of commitment people volunteer might be willing to do.
Right.
I mean, I guess once a year is better than, once every 3 years.
Right, and,
But I'm
I
just
mean,
thinking
I'd
what
like to
Carl
see it
told us
I'd
about.
like to see it on a more frequent basis.
Yeah.
I think that reporting to us, it'd be great to not have it be any longer than that, so that we get some kind of feedback within a 1 year period. And certainly on the more significant parcels and stuff that I think you're right, that we should push for more than that.
Then I guess my other question is, they report back to us, and then what's the next step? Like, I'm just thinking about what Carl was just sharing with us. I mean, if these ATVs are so numerous, why isn't anything being done? Not by us necessarily, but by the police.
Yeah.
And again, not to denigrate the police, because I'm sure they don't have a lot of time either, but if it's that prolific.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's, in the end, it does, that process that Jim was talking about, kind of puts the responsibility back on the town staff, whether it's police or others. I mean, we're not really an enforcement group here. We don't have, just like the
And there's a
volunteers.
notice about the leash law in the newspaper every single week.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There should be something about the ATVs, because I guarantee you, a lot of those people don't know you can't do that. Because if you can, well, maybe I'm naive,
You know, one
Right.
thing I will say,
No,
you know,
that's-
Rob,
that's-
is that we don't, one thing I did want to say about the ATVs, and I don't want to like monopolize the conversation. But I don't think we say a lot of places around no ATVs. I didn't notice one sign that said no ATVs. Maybe there's one behind a pokeweed plant or something. But
It isn't the law read or the ordinance that you have to have written permission on private land, not even on ours, in your possession. Like if a cop stops you, I don't know where I read that or if I dreamt that. That if you don't have written permission from the property owner, they can confiscate your stuff. But I don't know if I just made that up in my head.
Sounds good.
Sounds good. I know, that's why it's good. So I'm sure I didn't make it up.
You have a good point, though, maybe, you know, that is something more, maybe that, you know, that can be part of the ongoing discussions, because that costs nothing to put out press releases, but
And if they can write down the Berlin Turnpike,
nobody's gonna stop.
that's what I'm saying. If they don't get stopped,
You
then.
know, I mean, I hate to say it, but I'm just bringing it up because as
Just not enough.
chairperson. Or I'm sorry, Commissioner Pagliaro said it pisses me off because this is all of our property and yet this is the private. Now, nobody goes out there, so I guess maybe it's okay. And like I said, if it's okay, then it's okay, but maybe it's not, you know, so in terms, but I'm not, so to get back to the volunteer question. If we're gonna have folks out there, first of all, they damn well better know that they're not enforcement agents. They're just writing down what they see. You know what I mean? Which is just what anybody does, right, Tom? When we go out on trails, we write down, if I see a blow down, I write to the trail manager.
Pass through entity anyway.
And then that's all that they would probably do, is send something to us so that we can make note and call Woody if there's something that needs to be cut out,
Which is
right?
what will happen, that's
Right.
kind of the answer to your question, depending on what the item is, you know.
Yeah, I would expect that they would take care of small amounts of litter or something if they're out
Yeah,
there.
sure.
And if there's something that fell that is down and not, you know, is easily movable.
Right.
They might move it off the trail, but then they should be letting us know that, like you said, town staff's got to go off and cover it.
You know, I think once we get into it, it gets really complicated, because you have to lay those,
Liability.
you have to lay those responsibilities out for, you know, like CFPA has a whole deal where you're not gonna be a trail volunteer unless you go through certainly not gonna take any power.
Right. Right.
Well, you know what, I think I'm sorry.
I, getting back to the ATVs for a second. So, I doubt that ATVs are gonna become less popular in the future. So bringing this up to the town as a problem. And then leaving it to the town council to decide, or the ordinance committee to, part of the town council to decide. What do you want to do about this? Because do they want some kind of big space that these people can ride around on the ATVs? Then it's not gonna go away. So we don't have the police force that's gonna try to enforce anything. So maybe that's another thing that, you know, we have to say, these are popular. What do you want to do about it? It's the same thing with kids that want what do they call those
Skate
things? The
parks.
skate parks, you know, and we don't have one in Berlin, I don't believe. I know there's one in Newington, and you know, they're always looking for a place to go and nobody wants them, not in my backyard, not near me. So, you know, it's a problem because they're popular. They're gonna find their own way to do their own skate park somewhere and get hurt. And the same thing with the ATVs, so.
I think you're right, it just has to be, we have to make the other more-
Maybe in our comments to, you know, that are seen by the council and whatever. I don't know, I have to say something official, but it should come to them as this has been discussed as a big problem. And kind of.
Once the town, yeah, so I agree. The issue is that once you condone it, I think, then you have some sort of exposure from it happening on the property, right? Like there, you're right. So like there's in Connecticut state statute, there's an exception for personal property liability. Somebody who lets a passive hiking trail go through. If you let a hiking trail go through your farm or your mountain and somebody gets hurt, so long as you didn't run a tripwire, try to hurt them, or so long as you didn't charge them like entry fee, you have limited liability. Right, for passive recreation on trails. You know, this is definitely something that's happening above and beyond that on town property. I don't know what the exposure is. Probably not a whole lot, but once you take note of it, I bet it is. You can't just say, I'm gonna have an ATV park and not have any liability insurance.
So are there signs? Are there no ATV signs? Absolutely no ATV use signs out
I don't know, I haven't seen.
So-
So I mean, that sample,
Yeah, the sign we have, one of the
sample.
items.
Did it say no?
Sign,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
and
It was
it's-
a little
Yeah.
symbol.
Because we need separate, no,
Right.
I know, see, I see that, yeah.
Well, it's a large issue.
And you'll see.
It's gotta keep going.
Yeah.
I think we should continue the discussion about the land care volunteers.
Yes, I agree, sorry.
It's not going on.
Yeah, I just, yeah, that's fine. And,
Can I add to the land care volunteers? So I don't know how many of you will remember Carol, that was our zoning officer for a year. She had sent me information, that she found. Because she knows that Berlin has so many outdoorsy folks. That's the way, I thought that was charming the way, they put that, who regularly walk the trails and want to keep them in fine shape. She sent me information with regard to the conservation ranger program that Ridgefield has. So I just don't know if that's somewhere to look for some guidance. And I was just gonna remind everyone and maybe, I don't know that everybody was here for the previous discussions on these, but that guy had gotten some of the information from the previous time we had open space volunteers, and it looks to me like the attendance fee was probably from that time period, right? That's straight from that, so, and just comment that our corporation council is very proactive and also knowledgeable, or seems to me to be extremely knowledgeable on the liabilities and the advising town council on what they need to be cautious of or not as far as uses go, et cetera. So I think if there was a path that council and conservation commission was going down, corporation council. Something here, abilities, et cetera. They're very proactive with letting us know there's some how to handle situations, so I just want to give that a confidence booster. Oh, and I wanted to point out that on this sign, it had been discussed that report illegal activity to police, and that was what was put on the signs that were made, so everybody, little things we have talked about with regard to the signs.
it's strange. I think that part of the issue out there ends up being that we've never really had a formal plan for the use of the land. The land, you know, it was acquired for other purposes and then, you know, and then given to us for.
Are you talking about specifically Blue Hills?
Yeah, yeah, you know, so that, you know, at one point I was hoping that the mountain bike, you know, club would, you know, they would like that, you know. The advisor on that goes like, nah, he didn't like the terrain.
Yeah, it's a little rougher out there, especially on the Silver Lake side of the Hyde land. It's really kind of rough.
So we don't really have, you know, it had a history of having not just ATVs, but I guess cars and stuff. Parts of it, you know, the trails were big enough to get trucks down there and stuff, to have some parties and places. You know, and we don't have a presence out there. Really. We don't have, other than that trail going through.
Well, right, and you know, so Hatchery Brook Conservation Area is almost over observed.
Right.
Somebody uses that fire pit out at Sheer and we get fire calls.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, and, you know, I don't just necessarily dislike this, that, you know, like. South of Orchard Road, Berlin is forever wild. But that means that it gets used by ATVs because there's no, like, you know, there's no place else.
Right, I mean, and I'm not advocating this, but I mean, if you ever had, the town ever wanted to take on that liability, find a place for one. It's probably part of that area. You know, but I don't see that really happen, but.
Well, there's
Because
a
then-
rich mix of
because-
public and private
because
land.
then- right, because then you could actually have designated trails. And you have to stay on those and then leave the rest alone. You know, now it's.
Yeah, it's significantly from years of abuse, and I think that the ATV, I mean, I hate that we're still on the ATV. Right? The ATVs look like going through 3-foot puddles, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's become, you know, out there. So,
Yeah, but in a perfect world, if that was a well hiked and well utilized like Hatchery Brook, there'll probably be less.
much, yeah.
It's just not, it's not that parcel.
Well, you know, when I moved into town, they used to hike on, they used to hunt on Bicentennial. You know, that does, yeah, of course. There's tree stands up here to the state. They don't do it anymore because there's too many people around to call the police. Land out there, you know, it was very common. You know, so, I mean, you know, to take it with the bad, anyway.
All right. All right, Maureen,
I don't have anything to do with community garden.
Take that as good news.
amendments, zoning regulations.
So, you know, as discussed previously, we put everything on so that you know it's there, you know, so that the commission can then decide that things might not be applicable. This is in the first amendment listed for amendment to the zoning regulation section. 8F is Kensington Village District Core Area 2. So it's an amendment for uses at the Newport Center property, which is the core area 2, across the street from the train station, across, you know, the building that is now fully occupied but wasn't for many years. I struggled with how to call it. So this is a text amendment to allow for some residential density increase there. I don't think that has Conservation Commission concerns. There is a conservation area to the south of the property that goes through the wetlands and then has some connectivity. The river is there, so, but would not think the commission would have comments, however.
Okay.
No.
So,
1906 for
what page does, do you have those? Or do I have
I
them?
didn't,
Oh, Mike. So Mike, if you could just take a cover sheet when you've got the one that has, you know, the right thing and just put no comment, then, or I will, or give them back to me and I will, as we go, but they're just a matter of, then that way I hand them back in and they get processed in our office and put in a file. You don't even have that one. They might not have gotten through to you because of the text. So, all right.
Oh, it's right here.
There you go. It's lit up. The next one we have is several related applications. Let's put it that way. They have to do with affordable housing. Affordable housing applications subject to 830G, which is the Affordable Housing Appeals provision in the statutes. And the applications have come in because we don't have the threat, we haven't met the threshold of 10% affordable housing for the town. So the first application is an amendment to the zoning regulations that allows for those, what they're gonna be calling or what they're proposing to call planned residential infill development, inclusionary multifamily residential use with a housing opportunity or workforce housing component section of the regulations. And that will give the parameters for the build out for the two related site plans that are coming in as affordable housing site plans. So the first is the text and has to do with density and all that. Again, it is a text amendment. And it would, the first thing to talk to comment on with regard to that is it would specifically be the motel sites.
Both of them, both of them were in there?
Yes, the text is the same for both those applications.
Could they start working on one and
Maureen,
stop?
before we get too deep into this,
Yes.
can you show us where they're talking about and then if there's anything that's pertinent for us so we can figure out? Comment on it.
Yeah, so that's why I was kind of headed to the intent of this, because it's, you know, motel sense. It's a tax that affects a lot of, could.
I was gonna say,
potentially
it can't be
affect
just these two.
property. It
because-
could, well, they.
Well,
put it
I
pretty
thought that
specifically.
amendments to zoning couldn't be sites.
Except for when you have it related to affordable housing under certain provisions that certain provisions apply. It's kind of- It is.
Where did we end up with all the new housing in town? We were
They're
at,
mostly
we were
building.
at 10%. Just a few, not too long ago.
So every time a new housing gets built.
Yeah.
And new units, if they don't offset with at least 10% as affordable, you fall further behind. The number for the town also falls further behind because it's based on census data. So we've been working off the previous, and we just got updated as to what our housing numbers are and what our 10% threshold is. The other thing, major item that changes our number is that one of the things that counts as units that count towards our 10% goal are those financed through like CHAPA and FHA loans. And with the housing market over the last several years, a lot of those loans where we might have had a house that might have 10 years ago gotten a CHAPA loan, instead a buyer came in with cash or their own financing and didn't get a CHAPA loan, even though a different buyer for the property might have qualified and gotten it and let it count.
What's our current percentage?
We're down at, I think, low 9s. Low 9%, high 8%. We're very close. We do have we have several projects going, but some that offset. So the workforce housing development that's on Deming Road going out towards Rocky Hill, from what's on the line, Rocky Hill, just beyond the driveway over there to Eversource.
Yep.
That's a workforce housing, the 88 units, some 30% will be affordable. They all will be counting because of their financing and everything else. They don't count until they're occupied with a CO. You know, the units don't count until they're fully built and approved for living.
So this is the time that we're gonna get loaded. It's kind of always,
So,
because we have numerous ones that are already begun that are finished.
right, so then the project that's part of the mixed use project with Orsini's Acura dealership and those two commercial buildings. He has a bunch of residential units going there. I don't have all those numbers in front of me. Sorry,
That
wasn't
stopped,
prepared for
hasn't it?
that. So he's got the foundations in, they kind of stalled their building, but there are no affordable units there. So those offset. The Newport project in the center of town only has a couple of affordable units and then has other units. It wasn't initially approved with any affordable units. It now has a couple that will be built when they build a second mixed use building. And they're starting to build their market rate units on the site that was contaminated. The Diadio project does have affordable component, so that's the one south of Debbie Road on the Berlin Turnpike with the large retaining walls, and that's another mixed-use project that he's moving forward with his permitting. Again, most of them are moving forward in some way or form. They're just between building supplies, interest rates, and some other, market developer items. They've kind of, some of them have stalled out. We have the fairly new Klopaki units down at the south end of the turnpike. They only just got fully built out within the last year. So those are units, but I don't believe there's any affordable units there. So every time you have units, you have an offset or you're asking for affordable. We have asked for several of the newer projects. When we asked to put in affordable units, they're, most of the developers are volunteering at least 10%. They know the writings on the wall as far as the state looking for that goal and the towns looking to not fall further behind. So in East Berlin, there's the project that's only a few years old on the corner. There's one proposed next door, or one approved next door to that. He has there to keep up with the pace of the units, the market rate versus the affordable. So those will have affordable units in there as well. We're just trying to keep that pace going. So that's where we are with all of those. So getting back to this, we do have a moratorium on multifamily projects right now. It only goes into August. However, because this is coming, these two site plan applications are coming in as 830G, which is affordable housing land use appeals provision of the state statute. The only moratorium that applies to them is the one sanctioned by the state once you hit 10%. And the state needs that moratorium. This proposal is not subject to the moratorium that the commission has. So what I pulled up on the screen here is in that text amendment, the site requirements and defining some of what the site has to have. And now we did hire a third-party reviewer for this application, so I haven't scrutinized the text amendment as I might have otherwise, but basically it's going, I'm sorry.
Show us the map of the parcel that's on.
So then to go on to the parcels, we are talking. First one is the 1906 Berlin Turnpike, which is across the street. From Spruce Brook.
It was,
Well,
yeah, and they knocked
It
out.
was a motel. There's two parcels adjacent to it as well. GIS is saying, I don't want to load for you. It's not liking me right now.
Yeah,
Down
one of
the
them.
hill.
Yeah, they leveled all the
There's the
motel that
one
was there.
that level, yeah.
And it's surrounded by like the chain link fence.
No, that's a different property.
No,
that's
That's
different.
the 1697.
Okay,
We're talking two separate parcels.
okay.
So let me see if I can zoom in instead, because it won't load. So hold on one second.
Like it's Spruce Brook, you gotta look diagonal
There we
to the
go.
right.
So let me take off the trails, because the trails are still up. Let me make sure my screen is sharing for the recording. Okay, so here we have the Berlin Turnpike, Orchard Road comes in down here. Spruce Brook is over here, Bishop's Curve comes around over here. So are we familiar with the intersection we're talking about? The liquor store is here.
Yep.
So this is the motel site across the street, roughly. This is the vacant parcel to the south of it. And then this is a third parcel, 1934, I believe it is, 1934. And they're proposing these 3 parcels to be used for redevelopment for 52 affordable units. Like I said, we did hire third-party review. The planner has written a report. An engineering review is underway for this proposal by a engineering specialist. Let's see, I do have that.
Maureen,
There
it's
it is.
52
Yeah.
units on how big of, if we put those 3 parcels together, it'd be 52 units on how big of a parcel, put those 3 together?
Gotta remember the acreage.
So it is those 3. 'Cause
It
when
is
I-
the 3
'cause
together,
on-
so I'll go back to
on the
that screen,
planning
I'm
zone-
sorry.
No, it looked like it was just A and A. And 8 and 8A. Just that one, the house and then.
One here.
It's these things.
Here. So it's these 3 sites.
Okay, because it
Yeah,
had me worried, because on the notes for planning and zoning, it mentions
No.
map 21-2, lot 115, lot 7.
This is, I believe this one's 7, this is 7, A next to it, let me look at the,
Right, then
this will show. So
Mhm.
maybe we noted them wrong.
What's the
I'll
big,
just die. if I
yeah, what's the
noted
big
them wrong.
parcel?
This one's 7, 8A.
I read that off.
And 8 has something on it now?
8 has a house, I believe it's a house.
Oh,
8A is vacant and 7 has the
what used to have a motel.
motel. No,
Not now.
they're, I
Oh,
believe
that
they're still a
motel is,
motel.
oh, so it was another place, okay.
So you're talking about the one further to the
Yeah,
south,
okay,
that's
got
the
it,
third,
got it.
that's
So that one
the
has a motel.
one listed further down as little house.
And all that together is how big?
That's what I was just trying to calculate.
Right, yeah.
You know what? It's
One
on
of them
the
is
sheet.
like 0.68 acres, and one's a little bit big, so. Probably. Say that math between the 2 plus.
I think it's closer, but
So
I
that'd
think
be-
it's almost.
Yeah, that's 2.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
Can't be
Like
tiny
apartments,
houses, can't be tiny
like just
houses.
apartment,
Yeah, but I see that
getting
backwards.
like the ones.
That's the other, that would be the parcel that had the other application.
When I talking about like
Yeah.
multi, like an apartment building or 2, 3 stories. Yeah.
0.67, 0.86.
Yeah.
0.87. So
150 plus.
1.6, just over 2, just over 2. I have them on my screen. I just have to scroll till I get to them. So if you give me a second, I should be able to get there.
Have they done a plan where they're showing what they want to build in?
All right, so, but I.
Trying to pull
I have
that
to
up.
remind everybody that this is just a text amendment and it's not, the project isn't
Right.
real yet, right?
So the other, so that's the 1, 2, and 3 on here, right? Right, A, B, and C.
Well,
A is the text amendment.
and then the other ones are.
B is the 1906 proposal, that's the one I'm pulling up now.
Yeah.
And C is a different property further to the south on the Berlin Turnpike. That is the 1676 that we were, that's a so these are 2 different development applications. and a text amendment for each, that's the same text. But you can't they had to apply for, because the text has not yet been approved. The text amendment had to come in with each application. But the text amendment is the same. But each application needed it. I think I figured out how to explain that to people by now.
So
It's
for
taking
sake
me
of
a month.
so for sake of discussion. Are we gonna have an opinion on the text amendment? Or are we just gonna be taking from the conservation commission's perspective, pursuant to the plan of conservation and development, the site itself, right? In other words, so if they're putting 25 motel style units, now I'm not saying this is the case, I'm just saying for sake of argument, if they're putting 25 motel style units where they had 25 motel units, we wouldn't have much to say about that. But if they're putting a solid parking lot on 6 acres of land and that's adjacent to it, like, I don't know about zone, I don't know that I don't know that I want to comment on zoning, but I want to comment on site proposals for sure.
Okay, well, hold on a minute. No. Only as it relates to conservation commission.
Right,
Right.
right.
Okay,
Yeah.
but keep in mind that this, the Berlin Turnpike in the plan of conservation and development has always been zoned for development, whether they call them TEDs at one time and target economic development, so,
Oh, I'm Michael, I'm just saying,
yes.
I'm just saying, you know, like, I'm all for people, you know.
But I'm saying that
Having
unless-
choosing to do what they want with their own land, I'm not like,
I get it, but in order for us to streamline our discussion here, we have to keep it focused on what we do.
right, that's exactly my point.
Yeah.
That's exactly my point.
So, I mean, it's nice, we're all learning about the developments and Maureen is gracious enough to explain it to us, but realistically, the previous 15 minutes of conversation had nothing to do with.
Correct, well, what I'm saying is, and I think, I don't want to paraphrase what you would say, but we're interested in how this is impacting our waterways and our open space and things like that, right?
Right, and that's what's tough with the amendments, because we had a few that we've been able to comment and see, you know, in the past. And ultimately, when we see a proposal come up, and you go like, oh, you know, you see what the result is of the amendment. It's already kind of
Exactly.
too late for you know, what's
Well,
gonna be
because
there.
it's specific to that development.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
but as Michael says, this is the turnpike, right? I
right,
mean,
but this is right.
like,
but
that's where I would assume, and not just me assuming, but plan of conservation and development, like, I think. That's the development part, right?
Yeah.
And so like we've had congregate housing on the Berlin Turnpike since they stopped having tourist camps and put up motels in the 1940s and 50s. I mean, that's just the way it is.
But there are some that we comment on because the
So,
drainage is
So-
gonna,
My point. right?
yeah.
so what's around this? So if we're looking at just these 3 parcels and what they're proposing, just numbers of units they're proposing, we don't know anything else.
Yeah.
What's around it that we need to be concerned about? Are there wetlands? Is there water? Is there water, you know, what would they be?
Yeah, Belcher's it all depends on where, I don't have any clue right now where their drainage would go. But there is
So
a
you-
small stream that goes.
So we could make a comment about concerns about drainage from these.
Maureen, can you call up a map that shows us potential wetlands, et cetera?
I'm trying, unfortunately,
Oh,
the
okay.
scan I have, so I can't access my drive from down here, which I can't from the other groups.
So
So right now, I mean,
And the moratorium in August, then they. Accept the person. Don't forget.
so it's gotta be done the other way, they're not talking. Open water,
Well, it's really what you were saying about the soil, doesn't sound like it's wetlands.
Right.
But I really don't know where.
Okay, here we go. Already got the Berlin.
So I really think what is more helpful, and you should have a set of plans in that set, and I brought this other set. Because I can't pull up this set digitally, I don't have access to the clear file, I have a scan and it's black. As far as the maps go. Scanned out, so, so one of those should be this one. No sense, go to a smaller scale, who wants the big plans, who wants the little ones? I think that probably, this one is it's 16, 17, 17, so say. Walk
We can-
across the middle.
Michael and I. Let's see what we have.
Maybe can I kind of? You tell me where you'd like it to go.
Put it like corner like that, because there's more room to go.
Oh, and then 3 and 3. So, so this is the site layout, but you probably, I'm thinking you'd be interested in specifically the grading plan. Not so much the utility or landscaping, these are detailed plans, so some of those sheet might for the existing conditions that are on the property. So here you have elevations.
So they're taking a lot out, are they seeking to take a lot fill out, or am I reading that wrong? Looks like it's fairly tight grading, right?
Yes, there are, I think the portion of the lot is not as,
These ones can't have this.
there we go. Here we go, here's existing conditions. As far as grades go,
That's the hotel.
motel,
That's the house.
and then here. As a comparison
I don't know,
to
but, you know, I mean, it's just.
that one.
Yeah, it's not-
This
I mean,
one,
different for how-
you can see between the two, if we have to pull them apart, so you can put them next to each other. I am more than willing to have you do that, so you see the grades falling off,
Yeah,
et cetera.
yeah, that's a big problem right there.
And,
And I think
Just-
they don't have.
so this is 52 units. If you're looking at page GP1, you can see the proposed grades and the 52 units laid out with the impervious surface
Must be 2 stories.
all in the middle.
Thank you.
I can
So.
help further if you want.
Guys, you're seeing a lot of, are we taking out a lot of fill here? Are we changing the topography? A lot?
They're gonna be adding where the hotel, is, the motel. is.
It's good. So that's the one that's down and,
Yeah. It's- And
So
the other two have already been filled,
okay,
so they're both at basically the same level.
Right.
And then that one drops down.
so we're changing topography, which is not consistent, correct?
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know.
but you know, there, you said, I don't know, it gets tougher with the Berlin term, you know, it really does.
I'm just pointing out that I think they plan a conservation development. It says something like within existing costs, you know.
So we want to say this, the concern is about the change in topography and the need for proper drainage. From our purview.
Second.
So,
Right.
It should be.
Right. Yeah, considerably.
Yeah.
so I just brought up
What
the
if the-
Google Street View, so you can see as you're going south on the turnpike, here's the motel site. And then you go down a bit further, and it's hard to see the topography, but, you know, it's apparent that it
goes down.
drops at that vacant site in the center,
And then it's
and
just.
then we'll just get to the house, I think is barely visible here, if you go in there. and
They
the
built
house.
that about.
So that, I just wanted to remind everybody where you're talking about, and so that you could look at the map and orient yourselves, the plans rather.
And then all of the access to the proposed multifamily would be off of Brilliant Turnpike.
Yes.
Yeah. And the good thing there, yes, is that it's all up under the hotel is now. Because I was wondering about that, because the other properties, if they were trying to get out at Spruce Brook Light, the other abandoned White House that's up on that little hill is really straight across.
Right.
That other building is like here, I'm going like, well, how do you make that as a it's not a conventional kind of intersection, so it doesn't look like a light or anything there. Just in and out at the.
So Rob,
Place.
There's no way.
articulate that again.
Sure, I guess the conservation concerns would be the change in topography and what type of drainage that would be used to avoid contamination or filling in of Belcher Brook.
And also stormwater management too, because you're introducing a lot more pervious area.
Right, that was, you know, and
As well as the removal or covering over of wetland soil, which was shown on the previous map, but they've already covered it over with the turnpike, so.
I
don't think that's an
believe,
issue. But You don't have to put
I
that part.
believe it was determined that we did not need wetlands.
What?
Did not need wetlands review. I
Oh,
think
okay.
they checked adjacent sites on this one, if I remember, and the reviews correctly.
All right, thank you, Rob.
Yep.
I'm sorry, the last comment was stormwater management for significant impervious surface.
Yes,
Yeah, the additional purpose of this.
Significant additional impervious surface. The other. Change topography, looking at steep grades are just changed.
I think adding more,
That's fine. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm clear. Get back to, not yet. Now, the next one is the 1906 Berlin Turnpike, which is the one that previously had an application for Little House Living. And now has, this application is, I knew I had it. Campbell. There we go. Architectural. So this, they've come back now with an affordable housing act. The application was denied. That they came in with last year, or early this, last year, I think it was denied in November. This is an application to do, basically what they originally proposed before some modifications to the plan. As they went through the review process, the plans were modified. And now this plan returns to the 20 units around the more of the edge of the property. They had pulled it in, they had changed, they had.
This is just north of Meadow Lane.
So this is just north of Meadow Lane.
oh, is this where those cabins?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next
Yeah.
to Snooki.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the
Yeah.
treasure hunt.
And they had an application last year that was denied, they're now coming back.
What did they
with it
change?
Under affordable.
Oh, but it's the same
It's
number.
the same as their initial application.
It's just affordable.
However, so during the approval process to the application that was ultimately denied, they had responded with modifications to the plan based on comments heard during the public hearing and had lost one unit, possibly two, pulled them back further from the property lines, et cetera. This application is basically a reflection of the initial plan with the 20 units, the stormwater management in the northwest and southwest corner of the property, and then another chamber in this portion of the property. I don't know if you guys can see it. It looks like it's trying to get it a little bit bigger for you. There
Those
we
will be
go.
privately owned.
No, I believe they're proposed as rentals. The one curb cut, some units in the middle.
So I think if I recall, the last time we talked about this, I think our biggest concern was with the drainage, which looks like they tried to accommodate better.
Yeah.
And I guess I asked about it being individually owned, but you said it's not, so I assume that there'll be one company that will oversee and maintain those, because that's the biggest issue. I think, but that's just my opinion.
So, well, it's, I think that's a valid point to make regardless,
Yeah.
because when we discuss units, the fact that it's a unit from the zoning standpoint or the housing standpoint, it's a unit. So how those are held and managed, whether it's by a condo or by rental, and even if they are all condo, they could potentially all be rental. All the condos could be owned by the same company, or all the condos could be owned by one.
That's true. Yes.
So, and the town controlling that financing can be a problem if, say, it's a rental and somebody changes it to condos, because we don't read those deeds every time they walk in, you know, they don't have to get zoning approval to file that covenant with ideally they do, ideally we go through them. But it can potentially happen. At the same time, it is one piece of property. So regardless, it's not a subdivision where the individual lots are divided. And that's really where zoning comes in, as to whether it's managed as one parcel. So it is managed as one parcel, but the dwellings themselves
Right.
may be, who knows?
Like a condo.
So,
Yeah,
so
because I
I
was
don't,
thinking it was individual.
I don't
No,
remember. I just think
actually
10 years from now, when those things have started to fill up, who's gonna pump them out and make sure that they're still
Well,
functioning,
that's the same question.
right?
Yeah.
But that's
that's
a lot of housing in a small area. You
Well,
know, that's,
remember, it's impervious now, and they had the bundles there.
No, this is more.
Looks like 20.
Right, but
They had a lot of,
that's
they had a
stormwater.
lot of,
That's
they-
stormwater you're talking about, not sewer.
right, yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
They'll be hooked to sewer.
Yes.
These are stormwater management.
Oh, okay.
These are stormwater management. These are not.
yeah, but
These
we've
are
had a
not
problem.
septic. They have,
Right,
it has to connect to public water and sewer. That's in the,
We've had a problem historically, at least for the last 15 years about those retention ponds and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
Who maintains them?
right, that's what I'm,
So,
yeah, that's-
and that should be a comment from,
Yeah.
I think, on any kind of
Right.
thing like this, that's a one.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's fine.
so I'm gonna add probably
Yeah.
1906 as well. For
Sure.
stormwater
Yeah, that's good.
management
Yeah.
and maintenance of the stormwater system.
Ongoing, yeah,
right.
future, but
Is there gonna be money put away to do that? Is that gonna be somehow adjusted into the fees that might go along with that? Because again, 10
Other
years
than-
from now, everybody
other than
forgets
that,
about it. They
we
fill
looked
up.
at this before,
Yeah.
and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Sorry.
So, I'll bite my tongue on it, yeah, we still-
We have one other thing we have to do.
Next morning.
Your
That
retirement.
was Little House, so now we're on. Proposals.
Yes, so this is the former Sunny Borders property
Oh,
at the
okay.
corner of Kensington and Orchard Road. The access to open space is across Orchard Road, just down the block a little bit. And I have to open each of these files individually because I couldn't do them as one, so give me a minute to open them each, and then we can flip from one to the next. So this is the subdivision plan.
Those are big lots. Huh?
So only 4 lots. So
It's the dotted line in the building area.
the dotted line is the, what's called the building square.
Okay.
So yes, that meets the side, I'm sorry, that is the dotted side yards.
Is there a map that shows wetlands or anything like that? Or
The,
I believe they determined
Trees or
there
brooks?
were none.
that little pond goes way back, but it doesn't look like it has any kind of natural base. There was some pond there, like ages ago, but on another part of the property.
It all runs downhill too, right now. It
Let me make
runs,
sure.
it runs all downhill. It runs downhill.
Oh, it should.
There we go.
Things that always seep out right up to the edge, you know, it's just walk around with the squares and stuff.
Changed it. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's true. It all runs down.
You've seen it well enough, so I haven't making it bigger.
It used to be. I don't think Pierce had it.
it's, yeah, that's- A parking lot for-
Open space on the street.
And now it's the side of it.
That good enough? Can you see it? Good enough? So we've got a driveway coming off Orchard to the lot furthest to the east. Another one almost to the corner of Kensington Road, and then 2 driveways coming in off of Kensington Road. And these are proposed house sites, the leaching, and these will be on septic and well. Believable. This one is not the coming up planning and zoning commission meeting, so I definitely haven't looked as much as this.
There's a lot of hill there, man.
Yeah, it's, I mean. It's kind of surprising, so that little pond area has been fenced in and stuff, now it's just gonna get filled and there it is. And then, but, something that still probably a no comment, but I mean. They have to be careful, this has got a history, a long history of having, things grown on there,
Chemicals on.
applications and stuff. And we're talking about septic and wells, so.
Would it be legitimate, Guy, for us to talk about the disturbing of soil and the development of that property and how much that might, I don't know.
I don't know if, I don't know enough, I don't think it falls under the same
No,
kind of thing. I mean, one of my things, and it's not related. So. But, I mean, these 2 driveways, especially that one at that other one off of Orchard Road, that's a horrible corner.
It is.
And we've had feedback in the past about like, oh, it's not great for the sight lines at the top of the hill for us to, the open space property. Sightlines there. A whole lot better than that sightline for probably either of those 2 driveways.
right, it's terrible, but I don't think, again, that's another thing.
If anybody else has anything else here, I can.
Well, I mean, the only other thing I say is it runs downhill. That runs downhill, so
And right, so. And it runs then, any runoff from both those driveways and those properties goes straight into a great class A. Perfect.
Yeah.
That's right.
So that is.
Yeah, so.
Did you get that down? Say that again.
Yeah, it was,
Okay,
Especially if the soil could have previously been
Yeah.
contaminated.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna be disturbing that soil by putting in foundations and digging and everything else, and
So-
putting in driveways.
so I would think that for those two properties, any kind of for construction and, you know, sedimentation control, and especially around the driveways, you know, when building happens and stuff,
right.
and runoff from those two properties in particular could have a real effect on that real small stream, which is a huge stream, you know, sensitive critters and stuff.
Right, and the potential contamination of the soil, like you mentioned,
Yeah.
that's really, I think that's really important, because they could potentially take that soil and go haul it somewhere else and just dump it.
Yeah.
Without, I mean, I don't know what's done with it, so they won't do that.
No, there's no
Well,
way.
there's a lot of tough
There's
sort
no
of
way
lakes
to
there.
residential.
To be honest,
If we were building a town trail through there, we'd have to mix it up and.
Right. But when they build houses, they don't,
Yeah, driveways on, yeah.
do they let the people know?
How's that slope
They
and
never-
everything goes right?
Don't let your children play on the lawn.
well,
I know
not for, not for very long.
Yes,
but 10, 15 minutes will be fine.
I mean.
Kids don't play outside anymore.
That's true.
So, right,
My
other
large
than-
whole town is former agricultural land anyway. so
Exactly.
it's not-
Right, yes, yeah.
Some of us.
How long now stuff like that?
Some of us not.
I think other than construction, I don't know if there's anything from us,
I mean,
but I think that's the critical time.
Right.
for us.
The runoff.
Okay.
For-
Yeah.
And that's part of your problem too, right? Isn't that,
Further along goes to the orchard,
I thought that it's right there at the bottom.
a little further down.
Yeah, but that's where that's all gonna drain.
Oh, indeed, yeah. Yeah.
So you got that.
Well, it goes
you got
across
that
the road and then, yeah.
Yeah, anything that comes off of those two driveways is gonna go out on the.
Maybe we got one more.
down it.
Oh, it did.
This one we did. So it's multi-family.
No, it's in the front.
So especially during construction.
That's kind of.
One more?
We did the last one.
Yeah.
We're not doing the fourth.
Oh,
So 1676 is back to what I corrected
That was
the
it.
agenda,
Text.
so that it was listed twice.
Oh, okay, good.
So I just quick thing, are we going to make a motion to not meet in August?
Second.
Are we? She said it as a question, not as one.
So I.
I think we should say the same kind of thing, and
Yeah.
if there's something that really comes up
Agreed.
where
Something
meeting.
that really comes up, or if it's like today's agenda,
Yeah,
which was.
yeah.
a lot.
Yes, yeah. Then I think we have to see if we can get a,
Especially.
We make a call.
yeah. we get
Okay.
more.
Or if we get
So
kicked out of the room.
is. Oh, no, the August meeting was not, we do have several upcoming meetings where the room will have to be modified.
Well, if we come down here, I like.
As long as you can do it, Maury.
Yeah, it's just me remembering I have to load it onto my laptop. I can't get it into the main system.
So
Yeah.
we'll play it by ear, the next couple of weeks, we'll see, right?
Yeah, that's
You'll
how we
email
usually
us
play
more.
the
Yeah.
system.
You're gonna let us know then?
Okay.
As of right now, we're not gonna be able
How-
to hear from you.
so-
How are we leaving?
How are you doing it?
Wait, how are we leaving?
The option is that you can also choose to cancel and we'll schedule a special meeting, even if it's on the same night, we can
Yes.
do it that way.
That's the.
Not
I move that
only-
we cancel the August meeting.
second.
All in favor?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for that suggestion, Marlo.
That generated the most comments, anything.
That was fast. I'm
Nobody
sorry, it
unless
was
something
big
pops up,
agenda.
we'll figure it out.
Well.
I think
don't-
guys
we
got
don't have to
something.
come back
Guys
to
voting no.
August.
Yeah, no, I can ask more. I came across some signs from the Mattabesset with the water safety, so I don't know if the town is interested in a few. so.
Somebody, did someone motion to adjourn yet or no?
Oh,
Did I just
motion to
have-
adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Mary Catherine and Carl. Thank you, everybody.
Enjoy the summer.
All right.
Yeah.
You too.
You're endless. It is.
Yeah.
It's
Glad we're-
20 p.m.
I can very.
Peace.